Trump. 2020. Mexicans for Trump.
Way to go, fellas.
Yeah, Mexicans for Trump.
Nice run. Nice.
Picture things. I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys. I love you guys.
Mexicans for Trump.
Oh, yes.
Let's go. Do one more time. Turn around. Say one more.
You guys look amazing. I just saw your signs. Are you here for the Trump side, right?
Yeah.
What exactly do you like Trump for the Latino community?
Well, he tells it like it is, and he's not no liar like the other side, the Democrats. We've been lied to too many years by the Democrats.
Is there anything specific you were lied to?
Everything is lied to us. Yeah.
Put it this way, we're against pedophilia, okay? Number one, because that's what this is all about, because Trump's going to put them all in jail. That's the problem.
Celebrities in Hollywood, you got to get rid of them.
Do you get I don't know. Do you get any hate from the Latino community for being a Trump?
Sure.
What do you say to them?
They don't know. They're sheep.
They got to do their research.
Yeah, they got to do their research, and sooner or later they come around.
What exactly, when you turned 2017 to be a Trump supporter, what did Trump do to be like, all right, I have to support that man?
What I saw was actually, I stumbled upon the video of his rally in Michigan, where he basically said to Black America, what do you have to lose? It kind of struck me as, well, what do we have to lose? We've been following this trend for forever and ever, and nothing's been changing.
Liberal Mecca of California.
Right. What would you say? What would you say if a bunch of Latinos who are on the fence for Trump? What would you say to them?
Because Trump supports them. If you're American, he supports Americans. If not Latinos, some Latinos think they're not American. They think they're Mexican, El Salvadorian.
Receive any kind of hate or flack from the Latino? What do they say to you?
They throw me things. They call me a coconut.
A coconut?
Yeah, I've never experienced white on the inside.
Thank you.
I've never experienced racism. We need the wall. It's not that I want it. We need it.
Put it this way, we're against pedophilia, okay? We're against pedophilia, okay? We're against pedophilia, okay?
Couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, what's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Prison Break Raw. I'm your host, the one and only Big JD. Mexicans for Trump, or Chicanos for Trump, whichever way you want to put it. I guess both labels are fitting for this. And I thought I had seen it all. When I see a lowrider looking to be something like a 57 Chevy rolling down through Los Angeles with a Trump flag flying on it. And a lot of people thought that these gentlemen were paid to go over there and do that, but they weren't. I've done a little research on this. I've done some background on it. And I want to thank Be Like Water, the YouTube channel Be Like Water. Go check him out. Give him a subscribe. For putting this piece out there. It's thanks to him that I was able to get this footage for this piece right here, because you can't find it anywhere else. You won't see this on CNN. You won't see this on MSNBC, the Associated Press, any of them, the Los Angeles Times, not even the Los Angeles Times. As a matter of fact, the only thing that the Los Angeles Times reported about growing Trump rallies in Los Angeles, in the mecca of liberal and progressive socialist thought, was somebody pulling a gun out on a guy who pulled out a knife on an old lady after he smacked her in the face at a Trump rally in Aliso Viejo. Yeah, not only that, he puts his blunt out on her Trump sign, then smacked her in the face, pulled out a knife, an old lady, mind you, in her 70s. And then a retired police officer pulled a gun out on him. They arrested the guy with the gun, of course, but then they couldn't overlook the fact that they found the knife in the bushes, and they have footage of the man with the knife. That's all you hear about. You hear about that, and then you hear about some other shit that happened in a Beverly Hills Trump rally, but you heard nothing about this at all until somebody like Be Like Water broke it. But here we are. I thought I'd seen it all. But look at the times that we are living in. Nothing should surprise you anymore at all, and this should not surprise you at all either. The one thing that a lot of yous have got to understand, for some of yous that are outside of California, maybe on the East Coast, maybe in the Midwest, wherever it is that you may be, even in Los Angeles or in California yourself, you're shocked. How can anybody of color support Donald Trump? He's a white supremacist, he's a racist, he's a this, he's a that. And I always try to say that even though, like I said, I'm libertarian, I stay balanced in the middle of all these things. I could see good and bad on all sides, and I can agree with certain things on all sides, not all of it. I will never go completely in the tank for anybody. It's just the way I am. It's the way I've always been. And it would really take a lot for me to say that I'm going to vote for this particular candidate or the other. Like I said, the first and only time I ever voted was for H. Ross Perot because I liked what he was talking about, and he was dead on right about everything. So you see, I always do my research on these people. But Trump being a white supremacist always kind of made me laugh. You know, he's like anybody else, man. He just has no filter. He just talks whatever he talks. Everybody basically has their leanings. I see a lot of people on the left that are supporters of Black Lives Matter or whatnot, or supporters of this movement against police brutality and everything like that, getting pissed off over gender-neutral bathrooms. So it's kind of like they don't agree with everything on their side either, but they still claim to be on that same side. But let's take a look at this thing right here. Mexicans for Trump, Chicanos for Trump. Do you honestly believe that this is like a new phenomenon? It probably is in a lot of ways, because you got to understand that back like in the 80s and the 90s, there were a lot of Chicanos that are, you know, born and raised in this country that see themselves as Americans, that were hardcore Republicans and that always been Republicans. As a matter of fact, a lot of my homies and shit, people that I've known in the streets, their parents were Republicans. I had a homie of mine whose grandmother had a big-ass picture of Ronald Reagan, of her and Ronald Reagan, when he was the governor, in her room. Just been the way it is, and you have to understand why, and we'll go over some of the key points as to why a lot of what the media calls Latinos in this country would get behind Republican ideas or would support Donald Trump. With this growing interest in socialism from the radical left, from a lot of these millennials and what they call Gen Y or Gen Z, I don't know what the fuck they're even called, but they have no idea what it's like to live in a socialist country. Like a lot of Latinos that are from like Venezuela, that are from like Cuba and places like that, can tell you firsthand, with firsthand experience, what socialism looks like. And it never gets any better, and it never changes. No country can do it better than the other. A lot of people try to say like Norway and countries like, those are not socialist countries. Those countries have socialist ideas or ideals, but they're not considered to be socialist because they are free market capitalist countries. Countries like Cuba, North Korea, places like that, Vietnam, even I believe like Cambodia and shit, Venezuela, whatnot, those are socialist/communist countries. And you look at the fall of the Soviet Union, people were standing in line for food for days and days on end. Nobody had shit. And China, because it had basically sprinkled capitalism into its economy, is the only reason why it's afloat. And not only that, because also Democratic politicians, the Pelosi's, the Bidens, and all the rest of them have been in the tank with China since day one. But you listen to what some of these dudes that were at this rally or this campaign lobbying, I guess you can call it, for lack of a better term, because it wasn't really a rally because Trump wasn't there. But it was a support rally nonetheless. And people say, well, look at their signs. They just took a Sharpie and put Mexicans for Trump on there, and then that's it. Well, I see a lot of people at a lot of different Antifa rallies and whatnot that do the same thing. That doesn't mean anything. But if you listen to some of the stuff that they were saying, that should tell you right there that they're not paid. You could always tell who a paid protester is because many of people have gone up to them and asked them questions, and they can't answer simple questions. They don't even know why they're there most of the time. They always come up with the same rebuttals, the same talking points you hear all the time, rehashed bullshit. But if you ask them what they believe and what they know, they're like, I don't know, I got to go. Get away from me, you bigot. Get out of here, you're a white supremacist. And that's how it always ends, because when you don't have an answer and you are attacked, you will lash out like that. But you have to understand the mindset of a lot of like Chicanos and Mexicans in this country. Maybe not all of them, because if you go to my channel and you look around, I have a lot of like Latinos, Chicanos, Mexicans, whatever, that support Trump. But I also have some that don't support Trump. And when you ask them why they don't support Trump or why they hate Trump, they'll always point to the CNN talking points. Well, look what he said to that one judge that was ruling against him in the Trump University. When Trump went on there and said he's a Mexican, it's okay. Said it like that. I mean, this is the way Trump speaks. I'm not defending him. I'm saying this is just the way he speaks. But he didn't say nothing racial against that Carriol or whatever his name was, judge. He was just pointing out the fact that his handlers or his assistants or the people that are working with him, his advisors, had told him that Carriol is in a group called Mecha, which is kind of like a brown power movement that in some of its writings, of which I've read in the prison system, talk about basically like, white man, go back to Europe and take your slave with you. Basically saying all white people and all black people get out of this land. It's Aztlan and all that stuff. And that's the push for that idea and by any means necessary to make it happen. Whatever, I don't really get into that kind of thing right there because I got some friends that are involved in that movement and stuff like that. Sometimes I get at it with them. Sometimes I tell them, well, what if I don't want to leave? What are you going to do, put a bullet in my head? Whatever. But this is about Mexicans and Chicanos that are for Trump and why they're for Trump. You heard one of the key points right there. A lot of people aren't happy with Gavin Newsom and that Senator Weiner or whatever is doing in California to basically make pedophilia like a sexual orientation. And a lot of people on the left will argue with you and say, oh, this ain't true, this ain't true. But I've seen the TED Talks. I've seen the posts on the LGBTQ Twitter account talking about if you go against somebody who's a pedophile, you're a racist and a sexist and a homophobe and everything else. Look at what's happening in Greece. They want to make pedophilia sexual orientation. They're trying to do that here. They may not be talking about it because they have to seize complete and control of the power in order to start putting these other ideas that they have on the table out there. One of the reasons why they want to pack the court. So what happens if Biden gets elected president and 3 or 4 months down the road, Kamala Harris takes over The Democrats take over the House. They take over the Senate. What's to stop them from eliminating the Electoral College? What's to stop them from packing the courts? Absolutely nothing. What are you going to do? You going to go out there and protest? Protesting ain't going to do shit because they're just going to drive by you and laugh. The only way that anybody would be able to do anything would be a straight and fucking total revolt against the system itself. And I don't think anybody wants to see that. But they pack the court. It's over. It's done. All these things become law. Basically, pedophiles will be able to just have sex with anybody, and there's nothing you could do about it. All these things that a lot of people on both sides are against will be all over the place and in your face, and there's nothing you could do about it. Because every election from here on out without the Electoral College, and I'll do a piece about that very soon so that you can understand why it's a thing. It's because California and New York will decide every single election, and everybody in the middle will just be forgotten about. The breadbasket, the heartland of this country that feeds this country will be completely decimated. If you don't think I don't know what I'm talking about, you need to do your own research. So Chicanos for Trump is actually something that's growing. It's within a movement called #WalkAway. And it's also being funded and it's being pushed and promoted and assisted by people from the Blexit movement. You know, the funny thing about some of this footage that I got right here is I thought I saw Big Herc in the background right here. I could have swore that was Big Herc. But if you listen to what some of the things that these people are saying at this particular rally, they're not paid. You could totally tell they're not paid. They know what they're talking about. They've done their research. They've gotten in deep with this. And even Dubs on the Dubs show, don't know if he can vote or not, but he's an admitted conservative. I got a homie that I did time with in Centinela back in the day. He's a registered Republican. Over the years, I've noticed this when I was on the inside, and I would always look at him like, how can you be a Republican? But a lot of Chicanos are in the Republican ranks, and a lot of them lean Republican because they despise the free lunch. It's an insult to a lot of people in the Mexican and the Chicano community to receive handouts for nothing. It's just the way they are. They've always been the hardworking workforce of the West for a couple hundred years. And when somebody like Trump comes around and he's talking about creating jobs, he's talking about building up manufacturing, a lot of people are on board with that because it's all they want is a good job. They want to be able to support their families. I don't really see anything that Biden and Kamala Harris is offering except a whole bunch of leftist ideas that'll just destroy the country. The Green New Deal is, if you've read anything on it, it'll completely destroy the country. It'll completely destroy everything. And if this country falls, it's like I've said before, the rest of the world falls with it. So is this like an endorsement of Trump or an endorsement for this movement? No, not at all. I'm reporting on the story. Remember that. I report on the stories that I find and that I believe that you'll want to get some info and input on, and I'm giving it to you. But a lot of things, and I'm hearing this from a lot of my homies, a lot of people that are Chicano, a lot of people that are older and stuff like that have been around and have been victims to the draconian California laws and tougher sentencing that locked them in prisons for forever and then gave them no hope when they got out. One of the main talking points for anybody who's Latino that's on the left is Trump's putting kids in cages. He hates immigrants and all that stuff. In fact, Barack Obama built those cages. And in fact, those images that you see of kids in cages were from 2014 during the Obama administration, his second term. I don't know if you know this or not, but Obama was dubbed the deporter-in-chief. He deported way more people than almost any other president there is. I don't know if I ever told you the story. Maybe I'll do a separate video on this. about a guy who was my cellie in the MDC Los Angeles, who was fighting deportation. Democratic-controlled House and Senate, and including Obama, had signed off on toughening laws for people that re-enter once you've been deported. 5 years minimum. 5 years minimum. That's what you get. And in the 8 years that Obama was president, he didn't pardon any of those people that legally re-entered. He didn't lesser the sentences. I mean, it's crazy. 5 years for illegally re-entering the country. That's what you're looking at, a minimum of 5 years. I saw a dude get 10 years. I helped a dude write a letter to Maxine Waters, the congresswoman that was in his district, and a letter to Obama begging him, please. He didn't even do anything wrong. He was driving down the street at his own business and everything, and somebody crashed into him. The cops were called. They ran him and found out he was illegal. They went back to his home and arrested his wife. Their 2 girls, their 2 daughters, born in America. Guess what happened to them? They went into the Child Protective Services, CPS. Neither one of these 2 people have ever seen their daughters ever again. They could be living in the home of some pedophile, fist-fucking, blood-drinking, seat-sniffing celebrity somewhere, and no one would ever know. I mean, think of all the children that they found being smuggled in the underground that are being exploited. More than likely, this man and his wife will never see their 2 girls again. And as a matter of fact, this man has never seen his wife ever again. Because they're from El Salvador. And they accidentally took her to Mexico during the Obama administration. He's never seen her since. I've tried to get him to come on this show and talk about it. He won't. Scared to death. He said that there were people that were down there in his country that were trying to pay him to come to the border to seek amnesty. He said, fuck that. I've already been deported twice. Next time I'll get 5 years. People, white people down there in El Salvador and other countries trying to pay people to take that caravan march. So you can understand why some of these Chicanos and some of these Mexicans are jumping on the Trump train, because people are doing their research and they're starting to see that the left and the Democratic Party do not have your interests at heart. They don't care about African Americans. They don't care about Latino Americans. They don't care about any Americans. All they care about is their own power and their millionaire, billionaire donors. I don't have to be a Republican to tell you that. It's the facts. And not only that, but everybody's selling their soul, and including Bernie Sanders, to some hair-sniffing weirdo that can't even remember his own name. A lot of Mexicans and Chicanos in this country are fed up with being lied to. They're tired of being used as political pawns. They're tired of being exploited every election year and then forgotten about once the election is over. I hear these things all the time. What would be a simple solution to changing all of these things? I wouldn't tell everybody to jump the Democratic Party and join Republican. You know me. I would rather see more people become libertarian. Start looking towards third-party candidates. But the one thing that I can say is that economically and things like that, pre-COVID, Trump hasn't exactly done a horrible job. Not only for my own pocketbook, because I was getting taxed a hell of a lot more in years 2017 than I am now, but just a lot of the job growth. And a lot of people that I know that work on the pipelines and stuff like that that said, man, they didn't know what they were going to do before a push towards more drilling in this country. They didn't know what they were going to do. What I always do is I keep my personal feelings out of all of this, and I look towards the effects on the people around me. Are you better off now than you were 4, 5, 6 years ago? That's the question all of you need to ask yourselves. I don't need to promote any candidate or go at it or tell you why these things happen. You just have to ask yourself, are you doing better now than you were 8 years ago? Or even 4 years ago? This growing phenomenon with African Americans and Latinos in this country jumping ship and joining the Trump train are signs of a shift of a lot of people waking up to a lot of this bullshit. A lot of these protests and riots and everything that have gone on in this country have exposed several different things that are wrong with this country. Not just police brutality, but the fact that these politicians don't give a fuck. I just seen Nancy Pelosi on TV talking about delaying any kind of a stimulus until February because they want to completely lock everything up and then give you absolutely nothing. Trust and believe. I predict that more people are going to jump ship, and I also predict that if Biden and Harris, or let me just say Kamala Harris wins in November, 2 or 3 years down the road, when you start to see a lot of this shit that many of us have been talking to you about all along, I promise you, a lot of people are going to be done woke up. And it's not going to be the Trump train. It's going to be somebody else. The one thing about this country is you could break its backs, but you can never break its spirit. And you already know what it is. And you heard it right here. Prison Break Raw, uncut, uncensored, no holds barred, not sugarcoated, not politically correct, all up in your face, slapping you with that dick of reality. And I'm out.